And you're really not an audience, like it's a grouping of people with a common interest, which is, what does he look like? So, it's, when you approach a new audience, you think, how would you start? What subject could warm people up? So I thought, you might be interested in what I had for dinner last night, which was crabs. And then we had crabs. And then the guy ordered so many crabs, and we were with a friend of ours. There was the three of us. So this gentleman is from Tom. He's from Baltimore. So he knew how to not only order the crabs, which came in a big box, like he ordered them from the fisherman or something, but they weren't part of the restaurant. And like they came in, and then they were baked or whatever they do with them. And then he had the wooden mallet. So there was a fourth guy with us, and every time the hammer would go down, oh geez, I ate so many crabs. And so that was like, I knew that, you'd be very happy to hear that. But what you don't know, which I haven't thought of in years, was a previous experience in Baltimore. What's the name of the great hospital in Baltimore?
Hopkins.
What is it?
Johns Hopkins.
Hopkins. John Hopkins. John Hopkins. So, no, be quiet. Look, you have to draw the line between being stern and being friendly. You can't say, be quiet, because then they'll continue. You can't say, be quiet, because that's like, somewhere in, be quiet. I've had to practice that. I've done a lot of touring, so that's part of what I wanted to talk to you about. So years and years ago, uncountable years, in fact, probably long before anybody in the audience was born, I was walking along the beach in Southern California, and as the waves would come in, they'd splash, and then as they leave, they go out. And so I was walking along the beach, and I would hear crash of the waves, and then but the never ended. Am I hearing I was hearing and I remember, wait a minute, I've been hearing for a long time, ever since there was an explosion on the Star Trek set. Now, in a room 3 or 4 times this size, there was supposed to be an explosion for something. Spock is over here, and the thing explodes. Special effects. So things have exploded in movies for years. I mean, people who do it have had uncountable experiences in exploding something. So the first thing they need to do in an enclosed space is to open the doors, because the air expands suddenly. They didn't open the doors. And the thing went off, boom. And then both Leonard and I began to hear from then on. But I didn't realize I was hearing. Right into the microphone. That's exactly right. So I don't know what I've got, but it's becoming irritating. And finally I asked somebody, and they said, oh, maybe you have tinnitus. I didn't even know how to pronounce it. Tinnitus? No, American is tinnitus. But I'm from Canada. Oh, maybe you do say tinnitus. Actually, both pronunciations are correct. I discover I have tinnitus. And it's driving me nuts. In fact, to jump ahead for a moment, I became a spokesperson for tinnitus. And famous people would call me, famous musicians. And about 6 months ago, a famous actor called and said, I can't learn my lines. I got this shh. And I had to talk him down because it's almost suicidal. So I went all over the United States trying to get rid of and couldn't. Ended up at the hospital here where there was, now I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I don't think I ate breakfast. But I remember this doctor's name, Dr. Jostermal, working at Johns Hopkins, whose focus was tinnitus. And when I finally found him through a bizarre search, Dr. Jostermal, I said, do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? He says, no, I have tinnitus. I said, but what, do you hear it all the time? He says, I hear it every time I talk about it. I said, but that's your job for 12 hours a day. That's right, I'm hearing it all the time. So tinnitus takes different forms. Mine is, shh. My daughter had an infection in her ear, and she began to hear the national anthem. It's bizarre. Anyway, so I ended up at Johns Hopkins for many days in which he examined me. And the overriding thing about tinnitus is it's inside your head. They're finding out more and more what it is, and I'm not sure what the latest observation is, but it's in your brain, not your hearing, is the word. So there are things they're learning to do about the brain. As I'm sure you know, the brain is being examined every day by so many people. They're mapping out areas where our behavior is, and it's becoming more and more exotic, precise. So one of these days they'll have a cure for it. What I'm anticipating happening is I'm lying there like, I'm dying. I'm dying. I think this is my last breath. And as I say that, somebody runs in, they've got the cure for tinnitus. And I leave this earth hearing psh. Judgment at Nuremberg was a film I did really early on. I had been working in New York City, on Broadway, and in live television. Any of you here ever see live television? Hand up. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, 2 of you. Well, there was an era in television before this is Monster-Mania. I wonder what's underneath there. There was a period of time in television, which was new technology, where these large cameras would portray, would have the image, sports and things like that, which was live. And then we would do dramas, which were like plays, and these big cameras would move around, and you were seeing the play live. There was no recording of it or anything, so the actors were standing on marks. If they had to hit a mark, they would have to walk to the mark because it was lit there and the cameras were ready there. So not only did you have to remember your words and what you were doing and being a performer, but you had to hit those marks. So a lot of actors couldn't do all that and still not go, as a camera would, instead of a lensing into a close-up, these giant cameras would have to come right close to you as a close-up. So here is this giant thing coming right at you. And not only that, go close to the microphone and go, That's the sound the cameras would make. Because they had hot things in them and a fan that would dissipate the heat. They'd have hot bulbs in them. They were giant. They were as big as this table and would come into a close-up. So you can imagine an actor who is not accustomed to it is about to say, I love you. And he goes to go, whoa! That happened a lot. So actors who had had a lot of experience were in demand. And I had come from Canada and I'd done a play I'd been in Stratford, Ontario, and we brought a play down to New York, and I got successful, so they began to ask for me in these live television shows. What am I talking about?
I believe Nuremberg?
Right, so what has this got to do with Nuremberg?
I'm not sure. He asked the question. Fritz?
I know. Let's ask him what this is about. All right. This is what it has to do with it. So I became well known in live television. I was doing more live television because I wouldn't go, oh my God, what's that? Very often. So I was in demand. And people in Hollywood saw these live television shows and saw this young actor and called me to Hollywood to be in Judgment at Nuremberg. So I don't remember whether that was my first film, but it was among the first films. So I come to Hollywood to be in Judgment at Nuremberg. And I had started in Canada, and I remember thinking, if I could just make $100 a week, I could live on $100 a week. I could probably, I didn't want to have children because that was a responsibility, but I could live on $100 a week. So now they call me to Hollywood and they say, we're going to pay you thousands of dollars a week. God, I'm kidding. It's the end of the world. Of course, they weren't paying me anything compared to what they were paying these other actors. But so they said, we've got this movie about Nuremberg. Now I'm Jewish, and I know about what Nuremberg, the town of Nuremberg, contained. There was a trial that went on in the town of Nuremberg in Germany, in which the Nazi officers of that regime were on trial. And it was famous for the fact that Americans used liberty and justice to see what these monsters had done and convicted a large number of them and went off to jail. It was a famous time in which American justice applied to the Nazi overlords, and America felt that justice had been served. So now this was a movie of those, there are no terms to characterize how awful these people were. So I got the job of a lawyer, a military lawyer, at the table where all these characters would be judged. And these Nazi characters were now being played by well-known American actors. So I sat at a table like this for weeks on end, and a parade of famous actors that I had seen, being born in Montreal, I had seen on the silver screen. What was that? God bless you, dear. I'm going to say screen again. I want you to sneeze. Screen. Chew. That's right out of a cliche. You ask the actor to sneeze, the actor goes, chew. Oh man, that's not how we sneeze. Sneeze. You're hired. So I got to see Judy Garland. I got to see, I can't even remember the names of these people on the screen. what was the name of the guy, the actor, Burt Lancaster. So one, for example, Burt Lancaster played a Nazi guy. So here comes Burt Lancaster. I've seen Burt Lancaster on film all my life. I'm looking at Burt Lancaster, and he's in the dock, and he's going to make a speech. So, I don't know if you remember. Who hands up who know who Burt Lancaster is? Okay, good. So Burt Lancaster had that thing, didn't he? He had that grin. And I'm in the circus. I'm gonna kill you. And he's got this look. So we're gonna see how he's playing this Nazi guy. You know how he played the Nazi guy? He played the Nazi guy like that. Okay? So he's the Nazi guy, and he plays a guy. Yeah, I killed them all. I killed a guy, and he leaves. Burt Lancaster's in for a day. Applause. There goes Burt Lancaster. Next day, Burt Lancaster comes back. He didn't like what he had done, and he wanted to do it again. They said, okay, Burt, you just said we got the time, good. All right, action, Burt. And Burt goes, does exactly what he did the day before. Now he's happy. So things like that happened all the time. Spencer Tracy, do we know Spencer Tracy? So Spencer, you know that only a few hands went up. And no, but I mean, most of you don't know who Spencer Tracy is, which is my thought about how ephemeral fame is for anybody. Famous doctors, famous actors, they're, a year. I give you a year, 2 years. I give you 5 years, and you don't know what I'm talking about. So Spencer Tracy was a big actor then, an older man, and he had this long speech, and I admired him so much. And I'm sitting at the table, and I'm watching him make this long, long speech. He was the judge. And he makes this long speech, page after page. And I'm going to go down, and I'm going to get, and I'm going to, and he goes on for 15 minutes, the end of which everybody applauds, including me. I had the occasion to come up to him shortly afterwards. And I'd been on live television, but I came from the stage. I was on Broadway. I was in Canada doing great classical theater. I'm from the theater. Mr. Tracy, that was really wonderful. I didn't know film actors remembered lines. And he looked at me. And he never spoke to me again. Judgment at Nuremberg.
Mr. Shatner, how are you today?
I had so many crabs last night.
I heard that.
I'm telling you, I've got water retention. I don't look like this ordinarily, only when I eat a lot of crabs.
I mean, your crab glow is excellent. Yeah.
A crab load is what?
Excellent.
How do you know that? What's your maximum number of crabs?
0. I'm not a fan of seafood.
What?
Yeah, sorry.
You don't eat crabs?
I do not.
I agree.
That is a reaction.
Well, maybe he knows something we don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't you eat crabs?
I've just never been a fan of seafood. Don't like the texture. I don't like sea bugs. Like, that's not
So
my
what
thing.
do you eat?
A lot.
Is that boiled or fried?
I'll take it either way. Thank you. I'm Jeff. We spoke briefly last night.
I remember every word, Jeff.
Yeah, so it was, hi, how are you? Again. Quick question. I know you played Captain Kirk and everything, but you've been to actual space now. How was that? What was your experience like? Was it mind-blowing? Did you enjoy it? Like, how is space?
So I've got limited time here. No, I mean it's true, because I've got several answers. Like, ask me, how was it?
How was it?
Empty. Okay? So that's one answer. There's another answer, like 3 minutes. Like, I'm saying, I'm answering, and then I went, or there is an answer in which I was profoundly affected by what happened to me. And that's a fairly long story, which in its entirety, I would love to tell you, but I don't know, the gentleman behind you. What's your name?
Ray.
No, Ray didn't. Greg?
Ray.
Ray. Might not have time for Ray to ask his question. In fact, Ray, ask your question in front of what is your question, Ray?
It's a comment and a question, but I've noticed over the years I enjoyed.
No, don't go away. I'm trying to.
We'll do it.
I'm trying to make Ray feel good when he doesn't get to ask his question.
I noticed over the years watching your work, there's a lot of emphasis in voice and movement and gesture. And I just
You're talking about me?
Yes.
A lot of voice and gesture.
Well, you can see, even if the sound was off, you get the impression of what you're putting across.
Yes.
And
It's called acting.
I wondered if that had a lot to do with, and you mentioned stage and all, and I wonder if there was a Shakespearean element to that. It seemed like a lot of Shakespearean
Gotcha,
actors
Ray.
do.
Go ahead, take a step back, and we'll do with it. I got you.
I'm back.
Okay, so, space.
Yes.
The final frontier, I got that. Well, I entertained at Kennedy Center a while ago, and I'm trying to find the right place to start the story. I wrote a book, a most recent book called Bold to Go, in which there she's got it right there. Perfect. Right. You should have bought 15. One miserable book in her hand. In which I think the premise is that the universe is looking after me. So many terrible things happen, and then it turns out to be good, or something else evolves. I think that, if you have the time, that means your lifetime, to watch it all go by. It's cyclical. So, oh God, that's terrible. That's death. Oh no, it's life. Look at that. Oh no, it's not good. Oh yes, it is. And it's cyclical. Now, part of my psychology is this. Every time I talk about, he's that age, he should know something about life. I know nothing. It's terrible. I don't know anything. I walk around thinking, I don't know anything. What do you think about, the situation in Egypt? Where's Egypt? You know what floaters are? Yeah. I just had a floater. That's hysterical. So the book, I think, and I believe about 85% of what I'm saying, the other 15% is bullshit, okay? So, but even there, I don't know when I'm bullshitting and when I'm big. So I think the universe is really looking after me. Things happen, I think, that is the weirdest coincidence. And yet, there's a group of thinking where there's no such thing as coincidence. It was meant to happen. And to give you a shorthand, there is a scientific theory of entanglement, that everything's entangled. And I believe that everything is entangled, whether it's string theory or not. There's an entanglement. Everything seems to work. I'm doing a children's album right now with the team that I wrote these songs for the entertainment for the performance at Kennedy Center, which is now going to be an album under the London Symphony Orchestra thing, and a documentary of the performance and leading up to the performance. All songs that I and essentially another guy, Robert Chernow, and I wrote. So we had a number of songs that pertain to me some of my experience, we made it into music. So there's an album called Bill, which is out there right now, with songs that we had written, and we had all these other songs left over. I'm going to give you an insight to why I think the universe takes care of me. So we had all these songs that we had so enjoyed writing, we wrote the songs. The first album I made so many years ago was The Transformed Man. And it wasn't, thank you. Oh, it wasn't very successful. And I could go into that, but I won't, because we got to get to, right, and find out what I was doing as an actor. So we wrote a number of songs. I get a call from the guy who found The Transformed Man in a garage sale. Ben Folds, do we know Ben Folds? Yeah. So Ben Folds, 20 years later, sees the album, plays the album, calls me, says, I'd like to work with you. And he writes me a song called White Oleander in an album of his called Fear of Pop. Fear of Pop becomes very popular, and White Oleander becomes the most popular song on the Fear of Pop. And now I'm back singing, so I make a number of albums. Ben Folds becomes a great acquaintance of mine, but we lose track of each other. So one day, not so long ago, he calls me, and Bill, Ben, I'm now artistic director at Kennedy Center. Would you like to come and be on stage at the Opera House, seats 3,000 people, and perform for a night? I said, Ben, I've got the exact songs. And one of the songs that we wrote for Going Into Space, you see how it's all coming around? Is called So Fragile, So Blue. And it's all about that experience I had going up and looking around and realizing all the things on Earth that are going extinct. I was over it, because I've been an ecologist since I read Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, 60 years ago. She was forecasting what's happening now. And I've been talking about this. The world is coming to an end, don't you understand? We've got to do something, and because it's like we're behind in the rent, let's go to a movie, you don't want to think about it. People of the world don't want to think about what's coming our way. What's here ain't going to get worse. So this song, So Fragile, So Blue, is about this experience I had, this not insight, but this alarm that went off in my head when I saw the world over there and I saw the blackness of space there. And we wrote a song, all that it says, it's terrible, and then all the beautiful things, as many as we could think of all the beautiful things that are going extinct. I drove from Los Angeles to San Francisco and back in 24 hours. I had to do something. I wanted to get back home. So I went 700 miles or so in the fertile valley, what's that valley?
San Bernardino?
No, that's where I live. The San Joaquin Valley. One of the most fertile places on earth. Everything, it's the breadbasket of America. Everything grows there, or did. But we've mishandled it so much so that it's getting less so. 10 years ago, when I would make that journey, you'd have to stop every 100 miles or so and scrape the insects off the windshield. One splat in 700 miles. Here's the sadness for me, what I didn't realize it until I was able, even days later, to think about it. And I'll give you my observations rather than going into them. I didn't think of it until days later. Things are going extinct by the tens of thousands. And the sad thing is, we don't know they existed. It took 3.8 billion years to evolve to whatever this beautiful, sacred piece of life was, and it's gone, and we didn't know it existed. The magic of life, the beauty, the awesomeness, the incredible mystery of life's spume, sperm, slime. Slime is alive. Do you know that slime can work its way out of a maze and looks to the sun for life? Or these great trees that cling to cliffs that are thousands of years old? Just examples of how the imperative to life. I want to live, everything. I want to live. You cut down a tree, the vines grow up. The mother tree takes care of the baby trees. Everything's entwined, trying to live. And there are things that took billions of years to evolve. The magic of that. And they're gone. And we didn't know they were there. It's one thing to say the lions and the tigers are disappearing. Well, we knew they were majestic animals. You should have seen them, Bobby. They were alive for 15 years ago. Now all the lions are gone. The hippos are gone. The giraffes are gone. The tigers are gone. You should have seen them, Bobby. They were wonderful. We can't even say that because we don't know they existed. That's the sadness that I felt when I came down. 2 more observations. One is, I saw the circumference of the earth. I could make a circle. We live on a rock, okay? That in some places, the rock has broken down to be earth and things grow, okay? We're a mote of dust in this incredible thing called the universe. We're negligible. We human beings are on this negligible rock. We're virus on the rock. We're nothing. And then the third observation came to me. We're observers of this miracle. We're observers of life. We're observers of the awe and mystery of space. The Webb telescope. We invented the Webb telescope. Why? Why did we invent the Webb telescope? For knowledge. To observe, to see this incredible thing called the universe. So we're not negligible. We're observers. We're the journalists for the magic of life. And that's the evolution of what I felt having come down from space.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Now then, see, I told you.
I'll be respectful of it.
So you're saying when you watched me, you saw, you were convinced that I meant what I said.
There was influence, yeah.
A little right into the microphone. Speak.
Very believable, and like, to go back to the Star Trek series, the Captain Log, it was like an aside on the stage, where you're speaking to the audience, not so much into the log. So that's the feelings I had, and that's why I always respect your work, and I've seen
Oh, well,
it
I thank
in the
you.
movies.
Thank you. I started, I was in a camp play when I was 6 years old. You know, I'm sure from Baltimore, same thing as in Montreal. Parents sent their kids up to the country for a couple of weeks, you know, and you see the stars for the first time because you're a city boy. That's what happened to me, and somehow there was a camp play being written. They gave me a part in it, and I had a speech, and I gave this speech, and it was a meaningful speech, and I could see when I finished, I could see the audience was crying. I had made this audience of parents cry, and my father picked me up. My boy Bill, wow, my father's giving me love. I made people cry. I've never done anything else. Since I was 6 years old, I've been in front of an audience doing something. Acting or writing or producing or, you know, I love doing what we're doing here right now. It's a total spontaneous exercise between you and me. And for example, what made you observe that? What was, have you ever wanted to be an actor? Have you been an actor?
I've done some things as a child.
So I went slowly, right into the microphone.
I did some things as a child.
What kind
a
of-
musical.
what kind?
Well, it was a musical. It was a spoof on South Pacific, and
And you performed that.
yeah, Jack Frost by myself, solo, Santa. I've done a lot of things like that, and then before I retired.
So you knew the problems and the anxieties right there.
And used the power.
And the power. Yeah, there is an element of power that you're talking to an audience. And that power is like a dictator's power. It could go south very quickly. I've always tried to think in terms of history on our personal life. So if something terrible is happening to you, if you sort of give it a little artistic distance, like, I know that in 6 months this is not going to be as important as this is now. So I was asked to do a one-man show on Broadway. And I had been touring in a kind of one-man show, but when I was asked to do it, I rewrote everything. And I hadn't performed it in front of an audience. So now it's opening night on Broadway. Critics are there, everybody's there, and I'm alone on stage, talking pretty much the way I'm talking to you. Okay. The night before, realizing how important this tomorrow night will be, I was very careful about what I ate and drank. Okay, no crabs. So the next day, I was sick as a dog. Things were pouring out of every orifice. Okay, I couldn't leave the toilet. In fact, Dr. Oz, whom I had met, we've become acquaintances, came over to try and take care of me. So I got to the theater, and I'm really, where's the toilet? Okay, the toilet's over there. And I go on stage. Now I'm alone on stage. Hey, I'm gonna meet you now. And suddenly I have to go. Not only do I should have used the present, like I have to go. It's the past tense. I went on Broadway, opening night. And I'm alone on stage, and I realize I gotta get off stage. Hands up for anybody who's crapped in their pants. Okay. So, I'm taking an examination. Half the audience just raised their hand. Okay? And the other half probably went, don't want to show because I'm not going to show them I went and crapped in my pants. I've got a sphincter muscle that works. Well, let me tell you, I've got a sphincter too, but it doesn't work at times. Okay? So now so I said, there's been a technical thing just went wrong. We'll pause for a minute. I'll be right back. And I run to my dressing room and I shower. My wife somehow helps me, and we wash the pants. And I get back on stage and finish, and got great notice of it. And did a really very successful run. But that. my ability to stay in the moment and think of, there's been a technical difficulty, I'll be right back, comes from all the years and years of experience. So probably what you're seeing is many, many hours of trying to entertain, be informative, and being amusing is what you're seeing.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for the Thank you. Oh, please, don't get up.